pause for a second. Asim asked for advice for his love life
Mm,
for a better
mm,
relationship with his wife. And
mm.
so I think that so we talked with him on some calls before, and I don't know that I have any like specific advice. I know there's a huge cultural difference between where we live and where he lives. So I don't know that I could give the absolute best advice because it's probably going to be significantly different than what cultural norms are there. You might have a better idea for it, but
Mm.
as far as like, I can share things that you and I do, or like the way we communicate about things that might be of some help in just that realm. But like, things like public displays of affection, I'm pretty sure are probably not something that would be helpful to him. So let me stew
Yeah,
on that
so
if you have something.
I think for me the hardest thing with this question is not knowing exactly what your marriage is like now. So if I know what your marriage is like now, what's going really well and where there's tension or disagreements, then it's much easier to give something specific. So I guess the best advice I can give is ask your wife how she thinks you can improve your love life and your relationship and truly hear whatever she has to say, especially, I'm not saying even if, I'm saying especially if your impulse is that it's ridiculous or wrong or too much or unfair. And
Or silly or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
and so I would ask her, and then I would soak it in and really try to understand where she's coming from and why. She is
Mhm.
in anxiety. Okay, is she generally an anxious person, or does is her anxiety around your relationship?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of appreciate or understand, but because I know that there's like significant cultural differences between what's acceptable for a husband and wife in that region. But in general, I think that if one of the things that you want to do is really go into
Oh, this,
a rabbit
this
hole
is
or a
good.
series of rabbit holes, it's
So
shed.
this is good.
Yeah.
So she's generally anxious. And so you have this amazing opportunity to be her safe place. You have this amazing opportunity to be the person who helps her feel grounded. And so it's extremely important that if she's generally anxious, you are extremely centered and grounded. So you have to have this connection to your core and this connection to peace that's unshakable. And let me know if you have practices to help you with that already. That's where I would start. You want to be the person where the sky could be falling, there could be complete chaos around, and you wrap your arms around your wife and all of that disappears. She feels like everything's going to be okay. But to be that person for her, you have to be that person inside where you know you can handle whatever the universe throws at you, where you can stay centered and at peace and manage your emotions. Let your emotions flow by without getting sucked into them, right? That kind of strength, that makes people who are anxious feel very safe around you. And then it's really important when she's feeling anxious to validate her feeling. It doesn't mean you're agreeing that, oh my god, everything's falling apart, everything's awful, but validate her feeling. Like, I can see you're anxious. I can see this is really causing you anxiety, huh? Okay, just help her feel understood, even if it wouldn't make you anxious, whatever the situation is. Understand she feels anxious right now. That's how she's feeling. This is how it's impacting her. And understand how you feel when you're anxious. That's how she's feeling right now. It doesn't matter if the same thing makes you anxious or not. That's how she's feeling right now. And so acknowledge, help her feel understood in her feelings and not like she's wrong for having them. Okay, so basically you
Yeah.
migrated from another city and you also feel anxious sometimes. Okay.
So
Okay.
here's my kind of my thought on this. So one of the things that is really helpful for me when it comes to this is the way you and I function is the questioning like attitude, but the base layer of all of that has to come from compassion and a willingness and want to understand, not to judge, not to anything else. If she's feeling anxious, understand why and like actually understand. Sometimes it's going to be difficult, especially if you're a very logical person, to try to figure out why this is actually happening. Sometimes she may not know, sometimes she may not be able to explain it. And in those situations, just be there and be her shield
Mhm.
so that she understands that you guys are both in this together and that no matter what she's feeling in this moment, it may last a minute, it may last 5 minutes. Um, it may last a lot longer, but at some point, your calmness will co regulate with her and it will drift away. Whether that's
Mhm.
maybe you sit down and hold hands and try to meditate, or, she sits on your lap and hugs you, or you hug each other. However, like, I don't know what your comfort level is and stuff like that culturally with some of those things, but um, when that sky is falling for her, step in and here is your shield,
Yeah,
my dear, and be
hold
able
her.
to,
Hmm.
whether that's physically or emotionally, communicate what it is that's going on and why she avoided intimacy. Is that what?
Intimacy.
Yeah.
I think you mean, so she has a history of anxiety
It,
and you feel anxious sometimes too, and she's not logical. Yeah, so humans in general are emotional beings. Some of us tend more towards logic than others, but humans, there are so many ways humans are illogical. And so I'd say the first and primary thing is to work on your own anxiety. When you're anxious, can you face that anxiety head on, or do you try to avoid it? Do you try to make it go away, or can you just relax and be like, and sit with the feeling of anxiety and allow yourself to fully feel the anxiety? It's hard, you know? So that's your first step. Face the anxiety head on, like a warrior going into battle. Bring it on.
I'm not sure
Whatever
what that
happens,
means.
I'm
I'm
okay.
making
You
myself
make yourself
buzzy. I don't
busy.
have.
Okay.
Oh, busy. Okay.
So you're making yourself busy and you're exercising. So exercising is really great at a biological level to help to release endorphins, which can help to counteract anxiety. However, when you're making yourself busy, or you go to exercise as a distraction, then it's not as helpful. So even if you choose to exercise to combat the anxiety on a physical level, face the feeling head on. Allow yourself to feel the anxiety and go exercise and still allow yourself to fully feel the exercise and the anxiety.
Yeah,
So that's
there's
very
a
important because if you're comfortable feeling high levels of anxiety and that doesn't shake you off your center where you get disturbed, okay, that's the point. Don't Getting to a point where you're feeling high levels of anxiety or even fear and terror and not being disturbed by it, being able to still be centered and at peace. Like, wow, that is so much anxiety in me right now. Huh. This is really a very, very high anxiety response. How intriguing. I wonder
and
what's
part of it
causing this much.
the part of it that's key in that is that being thrown off your center could look like overreacting to something that's happening with your kids or something else where you have an unreasonable and like judgmental,
Hmm.
temperamental, something like that response to something that's going on. Because it's one thing to just sit in it and feel it and like allow yourself to process everything. And then if something else comes in that throws that curveball, how do you respond? Do you remain calm and not let this inner turmoil come out um and influence what's going on externally, whether it's a child or your wife or whatever? That's one of those key pieces to remaining centered and feeling the anxiety, but not letting it out towards other people, especially.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I want to make a distinction. Um, when I say like actually being at peace and feeling calm, I'm talking about your internal experience. And so yes, what you're talking about are signs that you're not centered and at peace. But I want to make the distinction that what matters here is what's happening inside. And so even if you're forcing yourself not to lead towards others, but inside you're not feeling calm and at peace, you're just faking stoicism. That can sometimes be a good first step. Fake it till you make it, but that's not what we're talking about. What's most important is having that sense of calm and peace inside. Yeah, sometimes calm, but rarely react. Okay. So yeah, practice, do your mindfulness practices, which includes meditation, deep breathing, body scan meditations.
Perhaps
There's
prayer. I don't know
Yes,
something
yes,
like that.
prayer can be helpful. If you need help identifying what practices can help you, reach out to me. But that's a good place to start. Make sure you're doing practices that help you be centered and calm. And then when your wife is in that place of anxiety, literally imagine that you're getting help and support from something else, right? So when I say, let's say I'm having a difficult time, but I need to be there for my son because, bless you, bud, because he's having a rough day, I will literally imagine like the air around me where I can like soak in peace and calm, right? I can soak in the energy that I need, and I'll imagine that all around me and going through my body, and then I will hold him with this strength. And so use your imagination if you have to, if you're having trouble accessing it within yourself. So you're offering your morning prayer right now. Yeah, prayer is absolutely helpful for finding that. And when you can connect with however you're praying, like whoever you're praying to for your religion, when you can actually connect spiritually with that, then that helps to open up and allow things to flow out of you and keep that sense of peace and calm. So yeah, working on it yourself first, and then when your wife is feeling anxiety, being that strong pillar, holding her, or if you're not in a place where it's appropriate to actually hold her, then being next to her, just virtually creating the body language of like, you are under my protection, and doing what you can to take things like to be her shield, right? So if the kids are trying to come up to her, maybe at that point you handle it. If somebody else, if something needs to get done, maybe you step in a moment and handle it, but being that shield for her. And then co-regulating, breathe with her. That's super important. Okay, so if you have the privacy where you can hold her, you do the breathing, and she'll probably naturally start to match your breath. So doing that breathing sound, I do that with my son and he automatically starts doing it. So literally do it for yourself, and you can prompt her, breathe with me. Slow it down, right? And so if you can be that shield for her, and you can, thank you, buddy, and you can breathe with her, that should start to regulate her nervous system and bring her down.